Good afternoon. It's time to start. We've also formed a quorum. All right. Since the last meeting, 7 papers have been issued to members. The titles have already been listed on our agenda. Item 2, matters for discussion at our next meeting. So please take a look at the list of outstanding items for discussion so that we can confirm the items for the next meeting, which will be held on the 24th of February, a Monday at 10:45 a.m. The administration has proposed 2 items. First of all, the Hong Kong Tourism Board Work Plan for 2020 to 2021. Second, the statutory cooling-off period for beauty and fitness services consumer contracts. So 2 items proposed. Members, would it be fine with you? If that is the case, then we can start our 3rd item, that is the strategic repositioning plan of Ocean Park. So, members, if you would like to ask questions, please press the request to speak button. Please also take your designated seat. Yes, I do know that you have credit, but still you need to press the button. The administration and the Ocean Park will make use of a PowerPoint presentation to brief us on the strategic repositioning plan of Ocean Park and the proposed financial arrangements. So first of all, we'd like to invite the Secretary for Commerce and Economic Development as well as the Chairman of the Ocean Park Corporation to brief us on their papers. Yes? Sorry, speaker is off mic. Sorry, the speaker is off mic. Well, 5 have already pressed the button before I did so. I think everybody should press the button at the same time when the chair gave the instruction. Yes, we'll do so next time. Well, time will be limited, so I will allow you 4 minutes each for the Q&A. First of all, Secretary for Commerce and Economic Development. Thank you, Chair. I think today we have a very important topic, as you can tell from the paper you received. The Ocean Park is a theme park that we all take pride in. At this moment, the Ocean Park is encountering difficulties, but at the same time, there are opportunities. So we want to make use of today's discussion so as to secure your support for the Ocean Park so that they can reposition their corporation. Please allow some time for the Ocean Park Corporation to walk you through the paper. Well, since issuing the paper, many people are worried, and it is only natural because it involves over $10 billion. Would it be worth the money? And then what about the existing issues? How they will be handled? How will they be coped with? And what about the future repositioning? I'm sure you'll all be interested. So I'll defer those issues to the Ocean Park. I'll just start with a few remarks. The Ocean Park has had 43 years of history. In the past 6 months, we affirmed their position as a valuable asset. And I think everybody or many people agree that this is the park for Hong Kong people. And then for the difficulties faced by the Ocean Park, of course, they have a financial distress. But at the same time, it is also an opportunity for them to reposition themselves. So we do hope that you will find the financial proposal or the financial arrangements appropriate and worth the money. Chairman of the Ocean Park, how much time would you need to walk us through your strategy? About 10 minutes. All right, thank you. So, Mr. Kong, please. Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, Chair. Good afternoon, members. Thank you for giving us time so that we can brief you on the brand new plan, that is the strategic repositioning plan of Ocean Park. Later on, Celine, the Executive Director, Design and Planning, will give you more details. First of all, let me tell you why we are confident that this plan will take us to a new scale. We've served the people of Hong Kong for 43 years. We've overcome many challenges. We have grown up together with generations of Hong Kongers. For me, I have joined the Ocean Park's management for 16 years. Ups and downs that I have gone through. In the year 2003, Hong Kong was hard hit by SARS. And then thereafter, we have to face keen competition from nearby theme parks. Therefore, between 2005 and 2010, we reformed the park so that we would like to become a world-class park. And in fact, we won the title of the best theme park in Asia. In fact, we are a homegrown theme park. It is a Hong Kong brand name. We also try hard to serve the people of Hong Kong. First of all, it is owned by the Hong Kong government, run on non-profit making principles, and we plough back the resources to serve the people of Hong Kong. With entertainment, conservation, education, we serve all the visitors, while at the same time, we would like to give back to the people of Hong Kong. Say, for example, we have a number of concessionary fares for the Hong Kongers. In 2018, we have got over 640 visitors benefiting from the concession, involving over $300 million. For education, we have already provided different kinds of educational activities or programs for 1 million students. And then in terms of animal care and conservation, for 4 years, we have got the recognition from a professional association, that is the Association of Zoos and Aquariums. And in fact, we have set up a fund for over 25 years and has become a very important institution. There's the Ocean Park Conservation Foundation, Hong Kong. The Ocean Park is a very precious asset for the people of Hong Kong. The challenges that we're faced with are unprecedented. First of all, increasing numbers of regional theme parks, and then the profile of visitors have changed. We have got more and more individual visitors. We need to catch up with the new developments. We have to move with the times, and then we can meet the new demands of the high-quality visitors. To overcome the difficulties, in fact, we have been having a survey so that we can have education, entertainment, and conservation so that we can ride on the advantages of the Ocean Park. And we have now come up with the strategic repositioning plan. We are confident that we can scale new heights. In recent years, as a result of the difficult business environment we find ourselves in, and we have also got our heavy financial burden, we are short of cash and we need injection of capital from the administration before we can launch the plan. We are not going to underestimate the difficulties, but at the same time, it is high time and golden opportunity for us to plan anew for the Ocean Park. For the board of directors as well as the management of the Ocean Park, we will try our best so as to take forward the strategic repositional plan so that it is a place of more fun for the people of Hong Kong. In terms of education and conservation, we're going to do more so that the Hong Kong Ocean Park will become a very unique theme park in the region. It will again be the pride of the Hong Kong citizens as well as a brand name for Hong Kong. I will defer to Celine so that she'll walk you through the attractions. Thank you, Leo. Well, we have carried out a comprehensive market research. It is a customer-oriented approach, and we would like to address the customer's needs so that we come up with a brand new solution. Well, we have got 6 target markets: India, Indonesia, Korea, mainland China, Philippines, and Taiwan, as well as Hong Kong, of course. We have carried out market surveys. We have also got task group studies. We would like to target at Hong Kong visitors as well as family visitors from the region. Well, according to the research, those interviewed have got the following to say about future development. They would like to have a diversity of activities. They want to have an elevated experience. We also hope that we can ride on or leverage the unique topography in the southern district as well as the scenery along the coast. And then they would like to have family-oriented facilities for all age groups. And then they want to have world-class facilities that are also all-weather attractions. Soon we are going to reposition the Ocean Park. We hope that it is incorporating nature, conservation, and adventure. We will leverage our unique topography. We have the Brick Hill. We have also got the Tai Shu Wan, and then we hope that we can place ourselves atop the other regional competitors. As a result of the market research, our design group has given a lot of consideration to all the details, and we have come up with a brand new Ocean Park concept. So we're going to have a new waterfront downhill, and then uphill we are going to make good use of our topography. So there will be the new summit. And here you can see that we are going to show you the best view of the new waterfront. Sorry about that. Miss Chang, take it slowly. Is it all right? So a bird's view of the new waterfront with two features. First, the Ocean Square, and then the Azure Bay. So Ocean Square
配合我哋以及嶄新嘅零售體驗啦，希望幫助增加我哋場內嘅消費，而且咧我哋亦
We are going to have world-class live shows, and then in both day and night we are going to provide very attractive experiences with the Marriott Hotel, and then we have also got a number of developments so that it will become a very important landmark, and then we want to meet MICE demands. I think it is a very good source market. We are going to meet all the demands.
So we would continue to impose the element of water, and we would have a new ride. So the whole planning is would match the history of Ocean Park, including the cable car, and would also incorporate the natural landscape of Hong Kong and such characteristics into our design. And we would take advantage of our topography, and we will have a single rail line. So to let the visitors from the main entrance, they can experience the whole topography. And we would want to extend the journey to Deepwater Bay. Other than the new restaurant, in the Azure Bay, there will be the Deepwater Bay pier, and we would have a cruise, a 10 to 15 minute unforgettable journey, and along the journey they can appreciate the views of the bays, and the cruise can travel between the peak area and the Tai Shu Wan area. So moving to the new summit, we would divide it into 5 areas. So I would introduce the 5 areas, including the Adventure Valley, the Discovery Grove, Ocean's Edge, and the Pacific Point, and Explorer's Wharf. So the third one is Adventure Valley. We would have the X-Razor. There would be 2 trails. The parents can afford an easier route for appreciation of the views. It's a family activity. Those who favor exciting activities can choose a more exciting route. so they can have a race there. So it's different from our usual rides. It's interactive and exciting, and there can be a new experience every time you play it. And for the Discovery Grove in the New Summit region, it's a brand new area. So our design, we have the natural elements and greening elements. So we want to break the boundary between outside and indoors. So we would have the view of the boundaryless the bay view, and there would be a bridge for the elderly or children to walk through, so that it can cater for their needs, and it can also cater for the those who favor excitement. They can take the rides. They can also do the bouldering or the other activities. So overall, we want to cater for the needs of whole families and give them a comprehensive experience. And for Discovery Grove, there will be 2 new rides, including the indoor ride. And we have overcome like our usual ways of design and added interactive elements in the Grove, the ride named the Grove. And there will be another ride called the Pelican Plunge. That experience will take you from the forest to the ocean to take full advantage of our unique topography. So it will be a stop-by points for popular points to stop by for tourists. And there will be the Ocean's Edge region, and there will be 2 new rides. We built the ride into the Riptide Races, and also the cliffhanger that will take you over the cliff. So what is the difference between this and traditional rides? So our new design will let the driver to control their own speed to match the trend of individualized ride experience. So the 6 is the Pacific Point. We would have designs along the cliff. The position will allow you to have the full view of sunset and sea view. So you can listen to the tides and appreciate the views. So each region will have its unique dining area, so we would like to enhance the total consumption in the park. So the last area is the Explorer's Wharf. We would renovate the 2 existing areas into the wharf, and for existing facilities that remain, we would also make improvements. So our redevelopment plan is only about the designs, the hardwares, but also the core concepts. So the 7 new regions will be turned into one whole total natural education area. So for our conservation experience for the past 25 years, we have the capability to hold more educational or conservational activities. We also see other theme parks or other areas have the eco-tours initiatives. We can provide these initiatives with hardware and concepts, and also satisfy the needs for mice. So the whole strategic repositioning plan will be completed in 2023 to 27, and we expect to spend $10 billion, and it's a lump sum grant. Considering there are 2 unpaid loans from the government, we would want to apply for relief measures to relieve our pressure in the transitioning period. So based on our consultancy's opinions, after the repositioning plan, we would enhance the entry number into 7.5 million, and 2027 and 28, there will be 7.5 million visitors. there will be a 2.5 million increase in the visitor number. So these 7.5 will maintain our advantage in the long run. So this investment is beneficial for Hong Kong for the coming decade. There will be a 438 million financial benefits, and in 2029-30, there will be over 10,000 jobs being created. So overall, it's about repositioning Ocean Park. 7 new areas will be built. We would enhance the total area of conservation is into 290,000, and there will be 11 attractions in total. So we would renovate our rides, and there will be adventure areas for families. We would elevate the whole experience from the park to on the sea experience, and coupled with the conservational principles, we believe it to be a unique experience, and we will stand out among all the other parks in the region. So we aim to elevate our 43-year-old brand into one that matches the market trends and needs, and to attract high-quality visitors from overseas, and to match the tourism development directions of Hong Kong so that Ocean Park can become a conservational, entertaining facility as a whole. We hope to get the support from legislators and the government so that we can implement our strategic repositioning plan. Thank you, Celine. So after Celine's presentation, we can have a feeling. The feeling is that if the plans are being implemented, it will be a very exciting plan to be looking forward to. Because we are 15 legislators lining up, and given the time constraint, I would monitor closely the use of time. So the first one would be Holden Chow. Thank you, Chair. Ocean Park faces financial difficulties today. Given its long history as a local brand, Hong Kong people would treasure Ocean Park. And it's inevitable that some Hong Kong people would like to rescue the park from financial difficulties, but you're talking about over $10 billion, and it's quite a very big number. And it is hard for us to just support it without further justifications, because in view of the past few years of operations, we see losses. And as we know, the water parks have not come into fruition, and facing the fierce competition, I think it's hard for us to just give the support for this 10 billion project. So I would like to ask the park representatives, will the government be able to provide a short-term relief plan for the park? And such a plan can be used to meet the short-term financial obligations of the park. So the short-term relief plan can keep the park running. And after such a short-term plan, we can move on to talk about the long-term repositioning plans, etc. in being conducive to possibly revolutionary plans within the parks. So I don't think we can just give you a lump sum of over 10 billion, otherwise it would be worrisome for citizens. We now have 16 members who pressed the button, so I have to draw the line. Who is going to respond? Secretary or the parks representatives? Thank you, Mr. Chow, for his opinions. When we gave the plan, there are two perspectives. First is to meet the financial difficulties, because they have to get through it. More importantly, it's not just to keep the park running, but to give it a vision. Because if it is incapable of attracting visitors in the future, there cannot be a long-term solution to the problem. So we would not only focus on the current problems as listed in the documents, so to speak, the short-term financial arrangements, but we want to also invest in the future, so that just like the older days, we can go back to attracting new visitors. So I will follow one point, Chair. In my view, if you can give confidence to citizens, we can talk about the future plans or a larger scale redevelopment plans. So I think we should take a step-by-step approach so that the public can rest assured or be convinced that they can give out the funds. Because the public are worried if they give out the 10 billion, there will be a pit that is very deep that would keep asking them for resources. So the public is worried about that. So you have to give the public confidence before asking for the 10 billion to be invested in it. So there should be some internal changes. So Mr. Hong, can there be some internal changes before you ask for long-term funding or plan? So thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chow. So from the park's perspective, revolution is ongoing, changes are ongoing. The reform is ongoing, so it extended from our business model. So each year we have different new events being produced to attract more visitors. But the period for minor adjustments have been passed. Facing the fierce competition, the new projects around us, there is a need for the ocean park to have a certain degree of reform. So, Mr. Leung, thank you, Chair.
$10.6 billion. It's difficult to say whether it is a large sum or small sum. Well, we need to spend $1.1 billion for the overtime work done by the police. Well, people would be having different views as to whether it's a large amount of money or not when we compare the two sums. Just now, a lot has been said about repositioning. Well, you talk about the different rights, but then what about the Universal Studio overseas, and what about our Disneyland Park in Hong Kong? Can you sort of, in using 20 words, tell us about the most unique feature of the ocean park so that it's worth the investment of or the injection of $10.6 billion? And then we can't help the ocean park on a long-term basis. 10 years down the road, you come back to get another $20 billion from us. That's what we are worried about. Of course, this isn't a condition that I would attach to our approval or otherwise. But then is it possible for you to give us a long-term financing model so that the ocean park can be sustained? That's my most, that's the point I'm most worried about, Secretary. Well, both Mr. Leung and Mr. Chow are right. Some would say that let's have something to stop, something like a stopgap measure. Others would press for a long-term plan. I think the ocean park management as well as the administration have been working on this for 18 months. For the park to continue to operate, for us to allow it to continue with its operation, we must invest for the future. Now, the ocean park has come up with the strategic repositioning plan, so maybe we can ask Mr. Lau to sort of elaborate. Not everybody would like to have the thrillers rise, including myself. What the ocean park would like to achieve is as follows. We want to be family friendly. We want to cater for different genders, different age groups, and we can meet their different needs. We hope that it is a park that can meet the diversified needs. And we want to have conservation and education being sort of included and brought out in different attractions and facilities. That's what we take pride in and why we stand out among regional competitors. In the long term, the reformed Ocean Park or the repositioned Ocean Park will be meeting the modern-day visitors and their entertainment needs. Well, from the PowerPoint presentation, you can see that the attendance will go back to 7.5 million. And then for our financial position in the next 7 to 8 years, it will become stable again and the operation will be a sustainable one. Well, let me follow up. Question for the administration. For the board of directors of the Ocean Park, are you going to revamp it? I'm afraid some of the directors are quite amateurish. They are not full-time, so it will be problematic to have such directors managing such a huge development. Well, the Ocean Park Board of Directors manage the Ocean Park as a whole, and the directors have different backgrounds. However, the actual work is being carried out by the management, and we have a professional management team. For the Board of Directors, its composition will be changed from time to time. For Mr. Liu Kong, he has been with the Ocean Park for over a decade. So we do have new faces and changes in terms of the membership of the board. We'll continue to have new comers. Elvin Young and then Claudia Mo. Chair, a question for the Secretary. Are you happy with the current management team of the Ocean Park? Secretary, well, Chair, I don't manage the Ocean Park directly. It's a job for the management of the Ocean Park. For the past 2 years, when we talked about the future of the Ocean Park, well, the management has been trying its best to cope with the current difficulties. Let me read out a set of figures, and then I'll ask the same question again. Well, I would like to rely on the electrical paper, and that's about the deficits. Well, from the year 13-14, they were making $96 million, and then it was halved, and then 15-16, a deficit of $241 million, and then year 2016-17, $234 million. I won't comment on 2019-2020 because we have unprecedented challenges. Let us set that aside. But then from 2013-14 to 2017-2018, the fluctuations are huge. In particular, starting from 2015-2016, they first started to record a deficit. So, Secretary, do you think that you are happy to rely on the management team so that on behalf of the people of Hong Kong, you are happy to inject $10.6 billion into the Ocean Park? Secretary, I think the chair of the Ocean Park Corporation already mentioned the financial position. Well, in the past, I mean, in the year 2005, $5.5 billion were given to the Ocean Park. So, more than 10 years have passed. Some of the facilities have become outdated. So decimation to $500 million. And the background of the visitors would also be a factor we have to take into account. For the attendance, that's of course an important figure. We need to look at the expenditure as well. We need to look at the cost of operation as well as interest payments. And then the government gave a loan, and then there were also commercial loans, and they became quite a heavy financial burden on the Ocean Park. So all in all, they become the difficulties faced by the park currently. For the past 7 months or so, that's the more recent cause resulting in the current difficulty. Now, for the management of the Ocean Park, well, the business environment is difficult. They have to contain the escalation of the operation costs, and they have also to take care of the repositioning for the future. Maybe Mr. Kong can also talk about their financial position. Thank you, Chair. for the ocean park, for our revenue, it has gone up. Unfortunately, the cost of operation has gone up by a greater magnitude. So without the backdrop of repositioning, then it means that it is only a matter of organic growth, and we are not able to pay for the depreciation as well as the interest payment. Therefore, the SRP would be the only way out to see us through the current difficulty. Chair, what worries me is that we're talking about injection of $10.6 billion. Yes, I know you have financial distress. What about $1.5 billion for the purpose of cash flow? If that's not good enough, what will happen to you? Well, Chair, I think we need sufficient money for the ocean park to invest for the future, and then they can reposition itself and themselves, and then they can bring up the attendance back to 7.5 million. So most of the money is for the purpose of repositioning. That's the emphasis. And then, as the chair has said, the loans are up for repayment, and they have been paying for the interest, so it has become a heavy burden. And therefore, in our paper, we have come up with two proposals to help them. And then we have flexibility for the one-off endowment. We hope that we will give them sufficient room to meet the two tasks. But then there are also certain restrictions. That is, no more than 1.5 billion will be for that purpose. Claudia. Well, I've been meeting with the people. There are a number of reasons as to why I would object to the proposal. First of all, for the animal groups, they've been saying that as long as you force the dolphins and seals to engage in an animal show, then there's no way that you can expect our approval. Now, you're saying that you're going to scrap the show, but then we were surprised to find that the dolphins will be up for photo opportunities, and the visitors can also feed dolphins. So you don't know what we are objecting to. We are talking about the basic animal rights of the dolphins and the seals. And then $10.6 billion. Carrie Lam surprised us with 10 initiatives to help people's livelihood so as to disguise or to cover up her governance blunders. 10 initiatives. They were almost all brand new. And she also talked about initiatives that would benefit the society. And there's $10 billion. Now you are asking for more than that. It is $10.64 billion. And then you're saying that there's no room for bargaining. It is a matter of take it or leave it. Now I come to my third point. Now the ocean park comes here to lobby for our support. You talk about a park for the people of Hong Kong. But in fact, less than 40% of the attendance can be attributed to the locals. So I think you need to do more homework. You have to find out what mistakes you have engaged. And then there was political censorship. Now, it was said that by using the term Hong Kong is politically incorrect, and then the convener, the script has to be revised, and then the Halloween show had to be scrapped. It is outrageous. How can you call it a park for the people of Hong Kong? And then locally, many people would rather spend the money on healthcare, and it's better to just close down the park. It would be regrettable if we close the park, but you have yet to convince us. Secretary, well, many people agree that the ocean park is a park for the people of Hong Kong. It is a Hong Kong brand name, and it is run along the Hong Kong mode of business. And also, many people also agree that if we say that the ocean park is a park for the people of Hong Kong, it doesn't mean that it is for the people of Hong Kong to visit only. And then we have also got other recurrent initiatives, and I hope we can ease the problem. For the animal rights, I know that when the Ocean Park conceived this plan, they did try to think of repositioning so as to be in line with the times. Well, for years, the board has been considering this question. Well, when we announced the SRP and we say that we will stop the show, the annual show, I think you know that it is a step forward. In fact, from a lot of literature, you have been making a big step forward, but then you are also having regression as well. Well, in fact, it has been said that for students to have closer contacts with animals, well, they will sort of learn through that experience of close encounters. So for us to be educational and for us to have conservation in our mission, I think the animals can act like animal ambassadors. And so that's what we have planned for the Ocean Theatre. In 2014, there was a theme park in Zhuhai. That's the Ocean Kingdom. For many years, our ocean park hasn't repositioned itself. Since the year 2019, we have got more and more. Since 2016, we have got more and more visitors coming to Hong Kong. But then, if we don't reposition the ocean park, it may face the fate of closing down. We know that the deficit is growing. I'm afraid that the ocean park would face a problem of shortage of funds and it may have to be closed. Let's look at it this way. Yes, we all agree that this is the park of Hong Kong citizens, and it has contributed a lot in terms of our education and conservation. When compared with country parks, well, of course, we say that we mustn't touch the country parks and we mustn't allow buildings to go up into country parks because we treasure the country parks. But at the same time, for the ocean park, I think the ocean park has a greater value. It is not just about the economic value or the direct economic benefits. I think it has also got other knock-on effects and it has contributed a lot to the society of Hong Kong. On my part, I have a few questions for the ocean park. First of all, do we really need $10.6 billion? Really that much? What about $1 billion only? But then $1 billion would be too little because that's just for survival only. And then are you going to spend the money on repayment of loans? You have commercial loans, you also owe government some money. So are you going to spend all the money on construction projects so as to achieve repositioning? And then what about its ability to make a profit? We are only told about the case for the next 3 or 4 years. What about the sustainability of the financial position? Can you elaborate on that? Are you going to spend the loan on repaying the loan?
Thank you, Chair. It would not be a debt over debt arrangement. So the SRP concept is about sustainable financial stability. So we would have the financial resources for continued development. So why is the number 10.6 billion? Is the conclusion of a 1.5-year study of our experts group. So there are 2 design thinking projects. So it's incorporated the views of overseas and local visitors, and adjustment had been made according to those expectations to come up with the 10.6 billion numbers, so that to be conducive to long-term financial stability. Maybe I can reiterate Mr. Yu's concerns. If we are just repaying loans, we can make the calculations accordingly. So in assuming the loans from government or commercial loans unchanged, there will be several tens of billions of dollars to be spent. So there must be new addition of items to the ocean park to compensate to fuel the growth in revenues. Otherwise, there would be a that for that arrangement. So from 5 million to 7.5 million, we had done this before. So we want to attract more visitors, but at the same time to cater for the current financial needs, so that the increase in revenues can also be conducive to loan repayments. So, Engineer Yip, Celine has, Mr. Celine Zhang has made an introduction of the 7 regions, but it seems to be just the excitements to be on paper only. So because you cannot assure that there will be no delays in completion, or will they be ultimately effective in lifting up the ocean parks business? Undoubtedly, is a common memory, is a collective memory, and there have been the heydays for ocean park. But think about it, there has been a boost from 2012, and it's one of the best 10 amusement parks in the world. Other than Alan Zeman, it has been the Chinese factor, because there have been the visitors from China. It's an individual visa scheme, but after the sentiment against Chinese visitors, including like the several events, especially the events from this past few months, even those who are Mandarin speaking can be threatened. So we cannot go back to the times before the 9th of June last year. We cannot depend wholly on China visitors, because we are seeing more amusement parks in China. They are cheaper, they are being built efficiently. So if you are following a commercial positioning, it is hard to justify. It's hard to be justified. We don't want to be creating a pit here. And you are saying there would be a one-off endowment of 1.5 billion for loan repayment, is making it even harder to grant the fund. So is what you're doing just a solution for you to tell the banks so that they can rest assured that the government is supporting you financially? So are we being overly optimistic? And is it necessary for the government to provide funding? Our current funding is sufficient for maintaining operations to the end of this year. Regarding how much fund is left, isn't it a confidential question? We now have 400 million in cash. You only have 400 million cash? You are all through of loans over hundreds of millions of dollars. And you're talking about 2026, 27, the matters there, and there will be delays, and Mrs. Celine Zhang may not be here anymore. So how can we be confident in you? This is a failed business from a commercial perspective in view of the changing competitive landscape. So we try to answer Regina's question. So in the past few years, it's been difficult times financially for the ocean park. And the past 7 months dealt an even heavier blow to the business. As I speak to the press, we don't want to see a closure of the park. So what methods are we going to adopt here? Of course, sitting here can be one of the measures. As Ms. Ibs has spoken, is the Ocean Park has not been relying on a single source of visitors. Out of 10 foreign visitors, one of those visitors to Hong Kong will come to Ocean Park. So it's ranked the 6th in attracting overnight visitors for Hong Kong as a whole. So in the repositioning process, we have to expand the sources of visitors. And for them, in conducting the research, they have identified 6 sources of countries or areas of visitors. So the meaning of overnight visitors means the total number of overnight visitors for Hong Kong. So Chair, it's undoubtedly Ocean Park is a collective memory, and it's a pain for many Hong Kong people to see it in such a difficult situation, and it's telling us there will be a risk of closure if we don't inject more funds. So I've spoken to quite a few people to get their opinions. We have great concerns over the 10.6 billion, especially given the current economic situation or the social situation, and we may expect a drop or a stagnation in the number of visitors in the future. So we have been seeing years of losses for Ocean Park even before the social events. And regarding the pessimistic look on tourism for Hong Kong, how can Ocean Park survive in the future? So a lot of Hong Kong people have been saying it's just for feeling the pit for the financial difficulties for Ocean Park, and it's not for saving the parks per se. So I have listened to the park's introductions. For myself, I hope to save the park, but I'm not sold by the plan that was just presented. I cannot see how it can reach the 7.5 million visitors number again with such plans. And even if we have that number back to that position, is it a guarantee long-term survival for Ocean Park? So I've asked, would there be alternative plans for us to choose from, or would there be a more comprehensive plans or analysis for us to deliberate over? So we would need more time for discussions, debates, etc. over the alternative plans. So in this period of transitioning, what can we do to help the parks to get over the difficult times? So we are all worried about the operational difficulties. Maybe I add 2 more points, and I give the time to defer the time to Chair and Vice Chair of the park. So we are not just stopping here for the park. The park have made its best efforts to increase the number of events, including some night events for the past few months, and the commissioning of the Water World. But it does need an amount of fund for the already commissioning facilities or those who would come into fruition. So I thank the opinions of the members. So would be Mr. Lam. So I hear the opinion. So for those of us who want to help the park, especially from Elizabeth Court, so what are we getting in exchange for the amount 10.6 billion invested? So we are investing for a new Ocean Park. The renovated facilities, we're talking about over 10 facilities being renovated, but I don't want to focus on the hardware. The rides are not the points. the point is, it's not only the park who is being repositioned. We're talking about Hong Kong's tourism. It's a repositioning for the whole Hong Kong's tourism. In the past, we are the shopping paradise. We are selling cheap goods. And it may be the same for the park in the past, but the time has changed. No matter it's 2005, no matter it's the past few months, there has been a change in the structure for Hong Kong's tourism. I've expected motions from members. So please bring forth all your motions. Mr. Chu Hoi Dik, I don't know if the questions have been asked. So in the whole world, is there any country like region like Hong Kong to have made a decision of spending $10.6 billion on renovating or investing in an amusement park? I haven't done such research. I don't know if the Secretary knows. I think, Chair, this park is unique for Hong Kong. It's not a purely commercial operation. It's a statutorily incorporated body. I'm asking if are there any foreign governments who are doing the same, of throwing over $10 billion in it. You can look at Disneyland Resort. There have been a co-funding arrangement with governments and Disneyland. I don't have the exact information on hand, but I think they exist. Such examples should exist, because our committee is facing now a even more difficult decision. So I hope the Secretary can provide us with the necessary information. And from what I've listened so far in the debates, we have the power to come up with options for ocean parks. And I've come with 4 options. First, it's about to reduce the amount of funding so that the white elephant can be minimized, so that we will not just we can build a park in a better ways to attract visitors. And second option is to have a lighter funding arrangement. So what is the direction of such a less heavy funding arrangement? You have no plans because you have not thought about it. Or the third option is to sell to somebody who can run it better. And the fourth option is to just demolish it to build housing. For now, I don't have the capability to make an informed decision over the 4 options. But from what I have listened so far, or from my discussion with Mr. Kong, I think it's an overly optimistic estimation for the financial projections. Because in 2027-28, you can go back to 7.5 million. Is that really realistic given the increasingly fierce competition or the changes in tourist mix? So given these ever-changing factors, my judgment is such large-scale investments may not keep up to the pace of the markets or society. Even the private corporations are not making such lump sum investments. So,
could we take that question? Well, of course, it is a very decisive factor. That is whether the LegCo is going to approve the funding request. If you have got other options, we do welcome your ideas. Among the options proposed by Mr. Chu, well, I just want to say that we did consider alternatives. That is, say, for example, whether the park should be demolished. I think many people would rather keep it. Can we just sell it off outright? Well, Currently, it is having a financial distress, so I don't think it is going to make a very attractive commercial case or business case for us to put in more money to continue with the operation. I think there's room for further development based on what it has been doing. Well, as to the scale of the repositioning, well, from the presentation, you can tell that we aren't talking about a major overhaul. We are merely riding on the existing advantages. So it's something like between option 1 and option 2 mentioned by Mr. Chu. Thank you. Next, Mr. Jeremy Tam. Thank you, Chair. Well, according to the PowerPoint of the Ocean Park, it is said that the target for the forecast attendance in year 2027-2028, it will be 7.5 million. Do you have the figure for 2021? In year 2013, in May, there was a electrical paper, and then it was said that in year 2012, the year-round attendance went beyond 7.4 million. So you were able to achieve 7.5 back then. Now with so much more money, you are still going back to the original level of attendance. And then you're going to start repaying the loans in the year 2021. And we are talking about millions of dollars. Now you've only got $400 million in your bank, so you're insolvent. Why can't you get the loans on your own instead of getting the government to chip in? It is said that in the year 2013, you had the first loan, or in fact in the 2003, you have already pledged all your assets, so you don't have anything else to act as a security or collateral for further loans. In other words, you don't have anything to support your loan application. So that's in 2005 that you had your first loan. I want to know about the deficits incurred as a result of the construction of the water world. Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I've been with the Board of Directors for 16 years. I first joined in the year 2003 when we were at the peak of the SARS outbreak. So for the financial position of the Ocean Park at the time, it was in financial distress. We were grateful to the administration for supporting our MRP so that the Ocean Park could have new developments. Sorry, time is running out. You don't have to telling us what has happened since 2003. What about the water world? There has been a delay of more than 3 years. Is it sort of a matter of overspending for the water world? For the water world, it is a very challenging project. As to the financial position, I would like to defer to Mr. Lee, our Chief Executive. Thank you, Member, for your question. For the project of the water world, it is very important. Please speak up. It is important for our overall development. For the water world, again, I have to say that it is quite very challenging. How challenging is it in terms of the dollar sign? We have the geological difficulty. What is the size of the overspending? It is up to $3.7 billion, but the project hasn't been completed. So you have already overspent more than $1 billion, and yet you haven't completed the project. Are you doing justice to the people of Hong Kong? You refer to SARS, and then since the SARS outbreak, we had Mr. Alan Seaman as the chair, and then you started to turn over. But then suddenly he was fired, and instead of making a profit, you're now having a deficit. So you are just reversing the case of Alan Seaman. So there's no way I can support your proposal. Next, Mr. Michael Tian. well, Alan Siemens' era. And since then, it seems that you have changed. You're no longer as innovative as him. But of course, the most important point is that the broader context has changed. I want to know, between 2016 and 2018, the attendance at the Disney Park went up from 6.1 million to 6.7 million. But at the same time, you have seen a drop in your attendance from 6.6 million to 3.8 million. So do you 5.8 million. Do you have an explanation for that? Well, for our dry park, well, the Disneyland is still having their existing facilities. They haven't got anything new. Well, they do have new attractions, but not so for 2016 to 2018. Iron Man came into existence after 2018. They have the Buzz Lightyears. Well, let me say this. Given the broader context, Disneyland had a higher attendance, but you had a lower one. So you have to benchmark yourselves against the Disneyland. You can't share the responsibility. The board must provide the ideas. You have to provide the steer. And then for cost control is for the management. Mr. Lee, you have 100,000 fewer visitors, but then the staff cost has gone up by $70 million. So you have spent $100 million more to attract visitors, but then you have 100,000 fewer visitors. So what is your explanation? No, it's a question. I thank you for your question. No need to thank me. Cost went up, but then attendance fell. Well, first of all, we have increased the per capita expenditure. And we have also increased the manpower resources. But then you had fewer visitors. Secretary, you heard me. So they have increased the cost of putting up the shows. They've been spending more and more money, and yet they're not able to get more and more visitors. In other words, the conclusion is that more money, but not necessarily more visitors. You need to look at the experience of the Disneyland. They have a deficit of $500 million in 2018-2019. It has been said that your deficit will go to $1 billion soon. In other words, you need to spend $3 to $4 billion to fill the gap. You would only be left with $5 to $6 billion for new attractions, even if you don't need to repay the loans. So for the 7 new attractions that you are proposing, how much would they cost? Let me give a brief reply. When the administration considered their plan, we did consider such. Sorry, Secretary, time is running out. For the 7 projects, how much would they cost? Will there be sufficient money left for that? The information is in the paper. Well, there are 3 factors. Chairman, I want to say that now it is supposed to be a proper infrastructure. Then in the long term, I support, but subject to a cap. And then I will support it. If that's not the positioning that you take, then I don't want it to drag on. It is heartbreaking. I don't want Hong Kong to lose the ocean park. So I think people have commented on the caliber of your management board. So are you going to declare it to be a proper asset? And then I would allow for deficits to be incurred. So you need to be clear about the positioning. Chair, can I use 30 seconds to answer the many questions asked by Mr. Tian. I can't regard it as a public works project. It is not a government department. The law doesn't allow it to be regarded as a public works project. Sorry. And then Mr. Tian was right to say that we need to review what happened in the past for our future planning. 3 points here. We have had competition locally and regionally. So for us to reposition the Ocean Park, we need to stand out from the other parks. And then Mr. Tian was right to say that 10 years have passed since the last injection of money for new attractions. They have become aged. And then we have to be more diversified in terms of the visitors. Mr. Kwong, well, I think it is quite spectacular to see that both the pro-establishment camp and the pandemics are against the proposal. If you haven't repaid the previous loan, you better not ask for a new one. Now, I think we better sort of change the name of the Ocean Park. Now, we have got the $8 billion loan, and you are saying that it is going to be interest-free. So how much interest will be waived? It's $2 billion, right? Well, it is indeed spectacular. I think across the political spectrum, we think that your idea would merely be money going down the drain. So, Secretary, do you have a plan B for $10.6 billion? If you don't get it, are you saying that you're going to give it up? I think you better have a plan B. It will be difficult for you to expect the proposal will be approved. I don't think there's an alternative. Secretary, we are proposing the best scenario in our mind. Well, as I have said in the beginning, it isn't just a matter of fund allocation for new attractions, and we aren't just dealing with the financial position. We want to strike a balance. Secretary, I've been pulling my punches, but I think you are acting like a middleman, intermediary. Now the client has run out of money. $400 million left in the pocket. Now you're trying to advocate on their behalf. You're acting like a financial intermediary, trying to get a loan from us. Now, Secretary, you want to rescue the Ocean Park. You better impress upon us as to whether you've only got one option in your pocket. That is, you will go all out to get the best out of it, and perhaps in the future, you might have already left your post. It's good for you to have Mr. Lau Ming-wei on your side. He's a highly intelligent person. Now, $10.6 billion, this is Plan A. For Ocean Park, of course, we know that it is a park for the people of Hong Kong. If you ask whether it should be closed, nobody would want to see that happen because it's part of our collective memory. Now, do you want to save it, or whether you want us to pour more money into the Ocean Park while the money will go down the drain? It will be a difficult case because somehow, someday you need to go to the Finance Committee. So please convince us as to why we should be spending public money. The original loans have not been repaid, and yet you are asking for a new loan to be given out.
So, thank you, Mr. Krong. You seems like it is up for discussion. But I think we have to be practical to tell the public and to tell the LegCo about the current situation of Ocean Park. I have to be honest with you on the reasons for the current predicament. We want to have a paying relief, but it's not about the bargaining between us. Because facing the current situation, when you look at the new plan, there will be addition of new facilities, but those facilities have to be matching the characteristics of the untapped potential of Ocean Park, so that you can be addressing the three problems I just raised, including competition, But is it as what members said, it is just the money for relief? I don't think so. So, Mr. Wu Ji-wai, thank you, Chair. I want the Secretary to take a look at the Ocean Parks Corporation Ordinance. It has listed the functions of Ocean Park. So the Ocean Park is a recreational and educational park for the public. So it is using the appropriate measures to develop the park into a recreational and educational park for general purposes, and to use all the profits to promote conservation and education, to apply all its profits towards the promotion of its statutory functions. But now what you're saying is for the ocean park to be a tourist spot and to attract the tourists or visitors. So it is in principle in breach of the Ocean Parks Corporation Ordinance. Another point, you said in 2009 there has been an increase in funding and loans for the building of the new facilities. So the visitors' number increased. So as Regina Eaps mentioned, its increase in tourist number is relevant to individual visitor scheme. So we are seeing depreciation of the facilities in the past few years. So you have to fight with the Cheom Long Park or the Disneyland Resort. It's a very difficult task for the ocean park because they have enormous resources with them. So your positioning by nature is not a tourist spot. It's not a tourist facility. So it is utterly wrong. So you're talking about 2.3 billion to be repaid as a commercial loan. I don't know what Mr. Kong you use with the funding you got, because you got to have the snowballing of both principal and interest, and on top of all is depreciation of your facility. So I want to ask, what will be the financial situation by then? So even if you have 7.5 million, which is just the 2012 number, so does that number justify the break-even you propose? There has been no explanation at all for that. So I would point to the ordinance first, and I would give the time defer back to the parks representatives. Thank you for pointing out the ordinance. I don't think your view is that the ocean park should not appeal to tourists at all. So the nature, according to Section 17, subsection B, is for it to be a recreational educational facilities. So there have been 45% of visitors coming locally from Hong Kong. So it has received over 1 million students in Hong Kong. So what it has been doing is to attract foreign visitors, but also to match with its positioning in accordance with the ordinance. So members just said, what member mentioned is about the repayment ability. So if our current plan is being approved in the coming 7 to 10 years, when the SRP is in progress, we will achieve a financial reserve, so that the days of maturities, when they come, we will have sufficient funding to cover that. We have done scenario analysis or planning to come to these conclusions, so we are confident if the SRP is approved, we would have the financial capability to cover the loans, repayments, as well as to be sustainable in financial development. So, Mr. Chen Chi-Ching, Chair, since the 10.6 billion is being raised, I've never heard of any citizens that are in support of the plan. All of them are telling us not to approve the funding So I cannot raise to the Finance Committee, so I have to come here today to oppose the 10.6 billion funding. So when I'm holding such a PowerPoint presentation, so I should be very excited after hearing the presentation. So every member, please ask yourself, which facility are you envisaging the most? I don't think they are appealing at all. I was looking forward to the Walk to World. It's part of my childhood memories. I was wearing a broken swimwear to go down the slide, but we have been waiting too long. So you have ascribed the loss to the anti-expedition law. I know the Secretary does not like the so-called yellow economic circle. You are not a fan of the at our Hong Kong slogan. So I think the Ocean Park itself has outraged over half of the Hong Kong population. If you are a theme park like that, I don't think you can appeal to Hong Kong people anymore. You can only rely on foreign or mainland visitors. So some of the public want me to ask Edward Yao, the Secretary. They don't think that even the Secretary can offer 3 months of salaries. So even the Secretary himself cannot justify that he believes in the plan. So Ocean Park, please clarify your stance. Are you drawing a line between you and the protesters? So they are saying the Glory for Hong Kong slogan. So you have to clarify the controversy over the so-called political censorship. Otherwise, you cannot appeal to Hong Kong people. In our discussions with Ocean Park, we don't want to be subjective in our sentiments because it's a statutory incorporated park. It's not up to the government's subjective view. I know they have conducted design or planning workshops for government to attend. So I know in recent months there have been controversies over the Ocean Park's practices, but I think there's certain credit in that, but I don't think what Mr. Chen has said is completely correct. I'm saying the plans are not intriguing at all. I think it varies for different people. What you like may not be what is liked by other members, for example. So the park, as the Park for Hong Kong, we should have a judgment. So are we going to see it go to its end, or are we going to provide it with a turning point? So as with the past fundings we have granted them, we are looking forward to a long-term restructuring. So we are giving them one-time endowment in prevention of further interest burden. But if we are not giving such an injection this time, we will be seeing they face the same difficulties as in the past, contributed by depreciation, etc. So I want to ask the park: is it you're drawing a line between you and protesters? Is it even the "at all" slogan cannot be said in the park? It's been 43 years since establishment of the Ocean Park, Chair. So it would be a diminishing of collective memory if it goes to its closure. Ocean Park also has a unique positioning of granting free entry for elderly. Other theme parks don't have such a policy for now. But does that justify a repeated granting of the funds and without an expectation that the parks have the capability to even break even? So we talk about 10.6 billion. We're talking about 8 billion of debts. So these 10.6 billion is just for covering the debts. So how much is left to be deployed for future development, actually? So you are now asking for the 10.6 billion just for loan repayment. I went through the documents and I can't see the source of the 8 billion loan you are having. Is that come from the yearly losses? You're talking about 300 or 500 millions of losses. Even those are being counted towards the loan, it cannot justify the number of 8 billion. I really want to know the source of these big amount of loan. So even we are paying off them, I think in 2027, 2028, the target of 7.5 million or the revenue associated with it cannot be enough for sustaining for your operation. Because looking at your daily operations, what is the number for that? What is the daily expenses? So is there any cost-cutting initiatives as well? I think you have to have a very clear plan for the points I mentioned. So another financial question. The Commissioner will have more additions, but I would reiterate that the 10.6 billion is not for covering the debts. There would be a maximum, a cap of 1.5 billion as a one-time endowment, but there will be the whole investment of 10.6 billion for future development or the SRP, etc. So there would be the debt on that problem. So even you're saying it's not, you're still having an 8 billion debt. So what's the source of that 8 billion? I cannot make sense of the calculations.
Yes, let me sort of explain about the figure of $8 billion in the year 2029. For the total government loans together with the interest, that would be $8 billion. Let me turn the clock back. We have got two loans. First of all, the 2005 redevelopment plan. We got the approval from the FC, $1.3, $1.4 billion. And then the Tai Chi Wan development project, $2.3 billion. So a total of $3.6 billion covering two items. Well, we only start to repay such loans after repaying the commercial loans. So the principal and the interest are building up. Taking the following financial year as a sort of a snapshot, it means that it will be a figure of $5 billion, including both the principal as well as the interest. Well, for $8 billion, we are sort of making a projection. We say that the government's loans should be deferred by 8 years. Assuming that we don't waive the interest, then principal plus interest would give us a figure of $8 billion in 2027-2028. Two other members have pressed the button to speak, but they are not present. Sorry, I thought you were sitting over the other side. Sorry. It doesn't matter, Chair. We all take our family members to the ocean park. When my children were young, we went there often. But to be frank, if you think that you want to get $10.6 billion, it's difficult for me to support. I've been to many other theme parks all around the world. I took my family there, and so it is a totally different story. I think the government has got it wrong. once you have got the Disney park, you are fighting against yourself. You have spent a lot of money on the amusement rides, but then they are what the Disneyland has been doing. I think we need to be awake and aware of the regional competitors like the Chimelong Ocean Kingdom. We are in no way a competitor in terms of the scale and the total area, etc. Now, if you want to turn the ocean park into a maritime center, I think no one would object to that idea. But you're trying to get a lot. So you are going to get $10.6 million, not to mention the earlier sums already obtained. Mr. Lau and Mr. Kong, I think both of you are businessmen. If you are in a business and if you see that $13.5 billion have been lost and you don't see any way capping the deficit, if you are spending your own money, are you going to spend more money on that project? Now, someone talked about this being a public facility. Well, you have to spend $500, almost $500 for the ticket admission. For the senior citizens aged 65 or above, they are not right for the thriller rides because they may have a heart attack. So I think the ocean park is like a prodigal son. The ocean park is not doing its core business. Now, if you say that it is take it or leave it, I'm afraid you're not going to get it from us. Now, for all the projects, I think you better think afresh. You try to see what are for public education and what are sort of similar to the Disneyland attractions and which are not as good as the Chimelong Ocean Kingdom. Mr. Kung and Mr. Lau are businessmen. I think you do have a businessman's insight. So please reconsider your case and try to categorize the different projects and come back again with a fresh application. Could we take the question? Let us say this once again. For the current proposal, it is the product of over 18 months' work. It's useless if you just do it behind the closed doors. Now, what about if had it been your own money? Then the people of Hong Kong won't mind. We're talking about public money. We need a greater degree of transparency and we want more information. For 18 months, we have a team of experts to work on the proposal. It isn't just the product of our in-house staff. Well, we looked at the expertise of our competitors. We've looked at the broader context, and we want to compete effectively with our competitors. Now, if you read our proposal carefully, we are riding on the unique advantage of our topography. We have got the hilly landscape. We have the coastal feature. For the amusement rides, well, we are making use of our topography at the ocean park site. We've also got educational activities for our nearby competitors. I think they don't really have much conservation or education. For us, we have been doing this for a long time, and we have already established our brand name in terms of education and conservation. Chair, I've said that I do agree with conservation and education, but if you start to spend more money on attractions similar to those in Disneyland and Chimelong, then you are having money going down the drain. So I'm merely asking you to repackage your options. For the paper today, you are not convincing enough. We don't know when the loan will be and can be repaid. Had it come from your subordinate, are you going to approve it, Mr. Kung? Well, the point is noted. Unfortunately, Ocean Park hasn't got Plan B for us. And it's outrageous. It seems that it's being forced on us. We've got two motions, one from UC Wing and one from Mr. Jeremy Tam. I think at the end of the day, we have to put the matter to the vote to see if we support the item. So it will take some time. Let us first of all deal with the two motions. Jeremy Tam, please tell us about your motion. It's been printed out, so I would like to propose a plan B. So for 5 years, I give you some breathing space. You don't need to repay the loan. And then for the board of directors and the management team, they have to be replaced so that we get a new team of directors and management staff. They will look at it again. Well, this year we have got the water well being commenced, so it means that we've got a new attraction. So it's just quite unlike what they have been saying. In fact, come this year, we're going to have the water well. So give them a breathing space of 5 years. They don't need to repay any loans. And after that, after they've a new management team, they can come back again. So we'll have the division bow. Let's deal with Mr. Jeremy Tam's motion first, and then Mr. U.C. Wing's. If anybody claims the division, we'll have the bow. Can I make use of the time to make one more point? Well, just now they talked about the free admission. Well, it is unfair because many people like me have already renewed our annual passes. Otherwise, we have the impression that we've been shortchanged. For many of us who have been members on a long-term basis, we find it sort of unfair if you now start to introduce the free admission for children.
嗱，因為我哋而家有
Well, the division bell is being rung for 5 minutes. In a moment, we need to deal with Mr. U.C. Wing's motion. And after that, we need to vote on the item as a whole. So I believe that for the following item, in relation to the permanent setup and staffing proposals of the Air Accident Investigation Authority, I don't think we can deal with it today. Would you object to my proposal to leave it till next time? Well, I have a proposal. I want to know if or how many people would like to speak on that. Not everybody is here. Once the bell has been rung for 5 minutes, everybody will have returned, and then you can just ask the question. If just a couple of hands are raised, but that would take us to 4:25. There would be 5 minutes left. There is another meeting at the same venue. We need to hand over the venue punctually. What time? 4:30. Now the bell will be rung for 5 minutes. Now it is 4:10 p.m. For Mr. Yu's motion. There's no need to ring the bell again. So by 4:15, you would have dealt with all the motions. Chair, if just a couple of us would like to ask questions, then maybe the administration will need 5 to 10 minutes to walk us through the paper. So the whole thing can be dealt with in the time remaining. But of course, it depends on how many people would like to ask questions. Chair, do you need any advice for chairing the meeting? Or do you need anybody coaching you how to chair the meeting? Well, of course, it's best. Of course, every member is entitled to expressing his own views. Mr. Wu, I'm interested in speaking on that topic, but to me, if so little time is left, it means that you are imposing a time limit on that item will be restricted. Mr. Chu, you said that finally we have to put the matter to the vote. What is the consequence? You mean the one on Ocean Park? If we veto it, then it can't go to the Finance Committee. No, it can. You can still go to the Finance Committee. In other words, it's merely a way to express our views. It is not binding on whether it can go to the Finance Committee. Not binding.
motion， 我哋就投 motion。咁我投完 motion 就。
Sorry, speaker is off mic. If you don't think that we have to vote on it, we can dispense with it. But for the two motions, we need to vote on them. But what about the ultimate question? That is whether you are in support of the SRP. Mr. Wong Ting Kwong? Indeed, some members would like to have a record. For the two motions, without notice, are you voting on whether to handle or to proceed with the motion, or are you voting on the substance of the motion? I need to be clear. Well, I've already said that we'll deal with the motions directly. In other words, you have decided that we will proceed with the two motions without notice. Yes, indeed, we are going to vote on it. 10 seconds more to go. Can we not express our views on this motion without notice? Well, it's a matter of time limit. We have to start voting on it. Well, in this case, I'm not going to vote. I'm not sure what you're voting on. Well, that's the motion. Well, please understand our rules of procedure. First of all, we need to decide whether the motion without notice can be proceeded with. No, I don't think we need to go back. So, members, please proceed to vote. All right, if everybody has voted, voting will come to an end. The result is to be displayed. "15 in attendance, 5 for, 8 against, 1 abstention. The motion has been negatived. So let me also deal with the motion from Mr. Yu Si Wing. So please elaborate on your motion. Well, the ocean park in recent years have been facing competition from regional theme parks, and then the attractions of the park are lacking in attractiveness. And so the ocean park is facing operational and financial difficulties. To maintain its competitiveness, the government is duty-bound to support the ocean park. This council supports, or this panel supports, the government's funding request so as to support the SRP of the ocean park. But then the data available have yet to ease our concerns. So we ask the ocean park and the government to provide further information to us to tell us how the funding will be used effectively prior to going to the FC. Division bell will be rung. Do we need to ring the division bell? We just proceed to division. Can we vote on it immediately? All right, please cast your vote. If everybody has confirmed his or her voting intention, I will declare that voting has ended and the result is to be displayed. 13 present, 7 for, 5 against, no abstention. The motion has been carried. All right, finally, some members would like to have it put on record. So are we going to vote on it? No. Mrs. Regina Yip would like to see that her objection can be recorded or minuted. Sorry, speaker is off mic. Well, in fact, for the development panel, we are being asked for our opinion for projects going to the FC. Why not the same here? If we support the $10.6 billion funding request, it means that we are letting off Ocean Park so that they won't spend time on having Plan B or Plan C. According to the ordinance, it is not supposed to be engaged in tourism. Well, in this case, I think it's better for us to have a division and vote on it. So voting begins. That is whether the panel supports the strategic reprovisioning plan of the ocean park. So either you're for or against it. I think it's best so that we have a record of it. Let's proceed to the vote immediately. Please press the button. All right. If it is fine with you, if you are all ready, then voting closes. The voting result is yes. Including Mrs. Yip, 12 present, 6 for, 5 against, no abstention. Mr. Christopher Zhang also favors the motion. So 13. In other words, once again, 13 present, 7 for, 5 against, no abstention. All right? Thank you.
So the next item on the agenda will be deferred to the next meeting. So I would remind all the members, it's 24th of February. For the next meeting time is 10:45 a.m.